That's new.
That's new.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back everybody to InfoSec Real. This is real life InfoSec Real because it's now all about just real chat between me and Ashley, isn't it? So
no guests, just us.
No guests, shooting the shit, talking about what is going on in the real world of the cyber threat landscape. And we've been away for a few months, which is it's been a nice hiatus for us. Certainly a lot has changed in both our worlds, personally and professionally. And I feel like Joe Rogan, Jamie style, we can start sharing screens and bringing stuff up, and you can tell me to bring stuff up on screen, and likewise I can do the same to you. We can both do a bit of Jamie Rogan style going on.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a journey, hasn't it? We spent close to a year doing the podcast and getting guests on and talking to loads of different individuals and the famous InfoSec stars and the probably less well known InfoSec professionals. But it was really, really interesting, and I think it's that period of time has, especially for me, has expanded my knowledge immensely. I think I told someone this the other day, a couple of weeks ago, that my LinkedIn follower count and connection count, I think I got 2.5 times that just by doing this alone.
Really?
Just, I went from having, I think I had 300 connections on LinkedIn when we started this, and I'm now at 1,400. And I know that's nothing because there's people that I know that are on 10,000, and I think how do you get to 10,000 connections on LinkedIn? And one, that must be really unmanageable content to go through on LinkedIn because you can't ignore everyone. But yeah, it's there's 1,000 people that I've met through the power of just doing this, and Colin's got it up on screen. But I talked to every single one of these people that we've met.
Yeah, and there's quite a few on there. Quite a few that we didn't get a chance to have sessions with, which would have been good as well. But when you look at the quality of these 20 episodes, I think when we first had a chit chat in over a coffee about this whole kind of concept, we were talking about doing 5-6 episodes of cover a few different roles of what it's like to work in InfoSec and break in. But when we got going, it was so interesting to talk to people, and it was we just keep going because these people are really interesting, got unique stories to tell, got some cool things going on in their worlds. And I look back, I was only talking yesterday, and I love it. I love doing a bit of peacocking at work when I'm like, oh yeah, you listen to Darknet Diaries? Yeah, well, me and Jack Race Musado, we're busy mates, mate. You know what I mean? So it's just quite funny.
I do love that one because I've been listening to Darknet Diaries again. Because I've not been traveling as much, I normally used to bank Darknet Diaries up and it would be my travel content. But I think I have 15 episodes that I need to just binge through. And I listen to that now thinking, oh my God, I actually spoke to that guy. And I now understand why he created that podcast, how he did it, and how successful he is. And it's just, it's amazing, really. And it's even like Jeff White. Look how well that Jeff White episode did, and it doesn't make any sense to me. It's really confusing, but
it's hilarious, isn't it?
Yeah, but even Jeff White now, you can just easily DM and ask him a question, and you can his podcast. Have you listened to it? The Lazarus.
It's insane. Yeah, it's so good, so well put together.
It's fantastic, and I love. And I messaged him probably a couple of weeks ago about his podcast because it's non-technical, and I know it's not he isn't a technical person at heart, and it's focused around people that are not technical, but I really like the way that he's structured that podcast, because I didn't know about some of the other attack methods that they use, because whenever I've looked at the Lazarus group, it's all about this IOC and this attack vector, and that it's always technical, but the stuff that he's come up with is amazing.
I agree. Jeff's a cool guy. It was so funny because I think it was 2 days ago in work, and I was doing some meet and greets with people, and I met some new people in a different team just to kind of get to know them. And they were like, "Oh, you work in cybersecurity, InfoSec and stuff." I said, "Hey, I've got this amazing book I've been reading," and it was crime.com. And I was like, "I know Jeff White." And that's the power of this podcast, really. Yeah. And it's hello. There's live TV for you as well.
Yeah, no, it just all. Camera just fell over.
All got a bit too much for you there, actually.
It did. It fell over.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, AJ, he's such a cool guy. Tom Nom Nom, Ashish, James Morris, Jeff, Jess, Becky, Nuno, Eli, rich. And we all obviously started out with our, beard mentor, Mr. Steve Watts.
Oh yes, Mr. Steve Watts.
And we had some crazy episodes, right? I think the fact that we did 2 with Mike and 2 with Greg were really interesting experiences, because on each part of each one of those, we got real different sides to both of those people.
Yeah.
And I love Charity. She's so interesting. God, she's got a great job.
Yeah, and I followed some of the stuff that some of that content she puts on Twitter is really, really interesting.
Thought-provoking.
It really is, and I just think I don't know if I could do her job. Like, obviously, she's done threat intel her whole career, but like, oh my gosh, it's so intriguing. Like, I can't even imagine or put into words her day to day, because the majority of it must just be. She probably has intel that even NSA or other government organizations don't even have, and she's handing that stuff over, and you think that is absolute amazing bits of work.
She's probably looking at the Pegasus stuff, going, "Yeah, what are you boys worried about? We've been looking at this for years. I mean, this is BAU."
Yeah, don't worry about Pegasus. You've got something else coming soon.
Yeah.
But you might as well. You've mentioned it now, so you might as well just dip into Pegasus.
Well, let's talk about shit that's going on in the industry, because since we last spoke, or on this pod anyway, a lot has happened.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
There's a lot of like SolarWinds rumbling still going on with like Microsoft Exchange vulnerabilities and shit like that. We had the Kaseya stuff, and let's talk about Pegasus, because this is at the moment like front page news. And I find it fascinating how well covered this is in the media, and I'm trying to keep up with it all, to be honest with you, because like people keep like sending me links to blogs saying like, "Have you seen this bit? Have you seen that bit?" And I don't know the full story, but let's talk about it now. But my understanding is that there was a leak. Someone somewhere leaked a list of like 50,000 phone numbers or something to a closed group of media organizations, and we're like, these are targets. But I'm not clear where that list came from. NSO Group are clearly denying like that list has got anything to do with them. But people are all, Citizens Lab and other organizations have done a lot of analysis and are linking this list to Pegasus malware, spyware, whatever you want to call it. And that malware is like military grade. This is like the serious end of the scale, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is different ends. It's a complete different end of the scale. And what's really funny about this is someone posted the day it happened. It was all over social media, and I remember commented saying, "Yeah, we'll probably never hear from this again. Like we'll hear it for one day, and then it'll just disappear out of the news cycle, because it will be manufactured away from the news cycle, because it is." High level state, well, either state or private sponsored malware creation and stuff like that. You hear not immediately. It'll be a couple of years down the line, and you'll say, remember that attack? But that was actually this. So the fact it's blown up the way it has, I think is really, really interesting. And even people that are non-technical, not in InfoSec, are asking me about this, saying like, "Oh, should we be worried?" And just quick segues. I was having a look, and I can pull that up. I was having a look at the iOS 14.7 update, right? Just looking at the release notes, because I don't often look at the release notes for iOS, but I thought, okay, let's have a look, because some of these current claims about Pegasus are either 0 days or vulnerabilities in the iOS stack or Android stack that are 0 clicks, and it was really interesting to see some of these vulnerabilities are all very, very similar.
Yeah.
Really similar. So let's have a look at these, and you'll understand them more than I do.
Yeah, okay.
So here core audio here. Processing a maliciously crafted audio file might lead to arbitrary code execution.
Yeah.
And then you've got some others. Opening a PDF file. processing a maliciously crafted font file. All like extremely similar types of vulnerabilities.
What's that one there? So go up. What's that? Crash reporter, a malicious app, maybe else a game root. Okay, so you have to have an app.
Yeah,
it's interesting, isn't it?
Font, a processing a maliciously crafted font file.
I remember. Do you know what, mate? I mean, obviously outside of Apple side of things, but one of my favorite bugs in affected Microsoft Office, and I'm not sure if it affected like Word and Excel or just Word or whatever, but it was the equation editor bug from a few years ago now, and it's still used that as like an Office exploit because people just don't patch or update their Office versions. But that was a font processing bug as well.
Yeah.
And it's I reckon like that is like a good playground because fonts support for fonts and that kind of mechanism is like probably something that is legacy and built into like every subsequent version. You've got to have like support for this old fucking
just
font.
Gets carried on. Yeah.
So,
but I think this when you start. So this is what piqued my interest was the CVEs noted by Google's Chrome security team.
Oh, nice! Look at that Beidou security as well. That copycat guy, he's a proper bandit. He knows what he's doing. Tell you, it's insane. Yeah, processing a malicious crafted image may lead to arbitrary execution. There's so much of it. Is this one release note?
This is one release note. All shit. iOS 14.7 all have these in.
Holy shit!
It's just a little bit suspect. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's a lot of arbitrary code execution for one patch. Now I know this is probably Apple don't do unless it's serious. They don't do like sub releases. So this is a major release.
Have they just started doing this though, giving more details? I've never seen this before, to be honest.
Yeah, they only give the detail if there's a known public CVE and it's going to be patched, but they don't normally describe what's going on. They'll hide it, and it's not until the next release then they put it out and they say, oh, this is what it was in the previous release. But there's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot, isn't it? And then you look at what you're talking about there with Pegasus NSO group, and their infection method, right, is all like this, isn't it? Like you process either a single Webkit is where it's at, right? This is where we're talking about the money shots here. Where you either click a link and it leads to execution, or you send one of those like weird iMessage background message thing or something that gets processed automatically by the iMessage engine. And it can just take over your device, which is insane to think about. And I think I read something recently about the NSO group, like whether this is true, but they're saying that they can pwn a device in like 6 seconds. Give them a phone number, they've pwned it. And it's like that quick because they have these like over the air exploits that doesn't require any user interaction.
Scary, that, isn't it? Really you think that's what. Well, one, it's scary, and two, it's interesting because I want to know how they're doing it. like what do they have that clearly Project Zero are finding the exact same exploits that NSO Group are finding?
Yeah.
Or NSO Group have got the exploit, they've burnt it, and then they're secretly saying, "Here you go." You can, like other nation-state groups do, Equation and all the others. Once they've burnt their exploit, they just release it out and for other people to find, to cover the tracks. But yeah, a lot of interesting vulnerabilities in this one release.
Yeah.
And then before we exit this one, the LOL of the release, that's the Wi-Fi vulnerability.
I think I read about this.
Yeah.
This was like I'm pretty sure this was like a format string vulnerability where if you called your Wi-Fi hotspot like %s, 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 whatever, it would completely fuck it up, and you'd have to reset your phone because it would just completely. I think that's the DOS bit. I don't know how they get code execution, but.
So I did look at a blog. It was a tweet saying, "Oh, we've been able to get code execution," and you don't have to quote me on this one because it was something to do with how the Wi-Fi name writes into the code base of the iPhone. So there's a file in iOS that writes all the SSIDs into, and then so this is why you had to reset your phone, because every time you turned your phone on, that file was called,
right,
and it reads every single SSID in that file to see if it's either connected to it or it's unavailable. So the minute that the string is written into the file, it's always going to be. It's just a really good persistence mechanism.
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
But yeah, it's a really interesting iOS release. I don't know, there's always been conversations, is like Apple's code quality or code checking getting worse, or is the bug bounty community just getting better at finding these things?
I think that there's a real balance there, isn't there? For me, I think the attack surface is massive, right? Their code base must be insane. You know what I mean? But also, what are they like? Literally, like one of the richest companies on earth. So clearly, they invest heavily in this area. But there must be a business which moves at such pace to keep up with the demand of billions of users. Like they keep just finding every single bug and all the rest of it. There's a lot of stuff there you went through about the image processing and the messages and stuff like that. It revolves around iMessage, and I think they know that they've got problems in iMessage because it's almost a legacy code base for them now, and to rewrite it, refix it, and fix it and all the rest of it. I think they've probably got a trade-off between, do you know what? I don't think Apple, even as big and as rich as they are, could ever solve a problem like the NSO group. They're always going to find some fucking vulnerability, which is going to, those businesses will always exist to sell stuff to governments. So you've almost got to accept the fact that the 0.1% of the capability at that end of the scale is always going to exist. And do you try and fix that and risk fucking it up for like billions of regular users? Do you know what I mean? And it's probably that kind of conversation that they have, I'd imagine.
Yeah, so it's like, well, it works.
Yeah,
like iMessage works today. So if we go and think, wow, they got this one little vulnerability that's very targeted, we'll try and fix it.
So then do you then look at like investing, rather than investing in like the code fix, investing in investigating should it happen? Like, a vulnerability exists or an area of vulnerability could be exploited. Let's put some sensors around. Let's see whether or not we get any weirdness that we can further investigate, work with like Google Project Zero, blah, blah, blah. Maybe that's where they're, how they're finding this stuff is because they know they have to monitor it so heavily.
I can't remember where I saw this, but there was I came across a blog where Google was talking about they noticed unusual activity in Chrome. So do you know if Google do this actively? They look at what Chrome is doing on endpoints. Like if all of a sudden it starts acting weird or crashing, obviously crash reports, but do they actively monitor those crash reports for
they must
suspicious behavior?
Yeah, they must do. Yeah. And I mean that amount of data as well that they're passing through would be insane, but they must have some kind of sensors looking for weirdness. But then, what you're looking at ain't on the MITRE ATT&CK framework, is it? Do you know what I mean? You're talking at the end of the scale that is you're looking for the outliers, the stuff that no one else has ever seen before. And, how do you find that?
Well, yeah, you're looking for the application shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
And then you see the application doing this constantly. Then you think, that's very, very strange that this subsection of applications all seem to be doing the same thing.
Yeah, and you need Tavis or Mandy to go and follow his nose then and start ripping it to bits. And
you start looking at the crash reports and you start realizing that this is intentional. I just wonder when I see these reports saying we've seen suspicious activity in the Chrome browser, and then all of a sudden it leads to we're seeing this group operating, doing nefarious things. It's like have you read the Facebook one? Have you seen that one?
I don't think so. Go on.
So Facebook
pull it up, Jamie. Come on.
Facebook had identified. Where is it now? Facebook have identified malicious actors on the platform targeting from Iran. They say they say from Iran targeting. Here it is. yeah, targeting InfoSec professionals. And when I read this, it sent me back to when you were targeted.
That's so funny.
So yeah, here it is. So
okay. Head of cyber espionage investigation. What fucking job role that is?
I know. You think that
Director of threat disruption. What do you do for a living? I'm the director of threat disruption. Awesome.
For all the badness that Facebook does, like these seems like kick-ass roles.
Mate,
Head of cyber espionage. Like what if like how much cyber espionage is going on at Facebook that they need to have a head of? Like what is going on over there? There must be so much going on at Facebook that you just do not hear about ever.
Mate, well, they've got to be one of the biggest targeted platforms on the planet. The amount of data they've got, the messages, because it's not all about Facebook, is it? And about your fucking holiday photos and stuff. It's all of the iMessage, the WhatsApp stuff, every Oculus, all the rest of the data that they've got access to is just insane.
So in this blog they talk about Tortoise Shell, who were using the Facebook platform to elicit InfoSec professionals. That's what I thought was really interesting. Into clicking links.
Right. Wow. Okay.
So predominantly in the US, lesser extent in the UK and in Europe, but they were also focusing on the Middle East as well.
So they're saying the group used various tactics to identify targets and infect their devices with malware to enable espionage.
Yeah.
You wonder what devices, like if we're talking about mobile or whether they're looking at like their. I read in fact, it must have been. I've read so many blogs lately that are all blended into one, but it's probably all about this Pegasus stuff. In fact, it is. We were talking off air, weren't we, about the whole the Google CVEs, the 0 days that they did a deep dive on. And offshoot from that, there was a great YouTube video from a Black Hat conference, which I think was at Israel a little while ago. And there was a presenter called Amy Burnett, who's got like a 50-minute YouTube video, well worth a watch. In fact, I've watched it multiple times now because it's that interesting. You have to kind of like go through it several times, where Amy talks about like screw compromising the endpoint, go after the browser and you steal the cookies basically from the browser, which you think, do you know what, in my mind, malware on a Windows device or a Mac device, whatever, you know what, it takes with AV nowadays, you got to jump through a few hoops, not massive amount of hoops, but you've got to jump through hoops to infect an endpoint to do everything you want to do. And the reality is that malware, probably you want that malware predominantly. If you're interested in ransomware, fine. But if you're interested in stealing data, the data you're trying to steal is probably in the fucking browser. So if you can compromise the browser, compromise your Facebook token, your LinkedIn token, your whatever Slack token, etc., then that's where the money's at. Rather than like, but your attack surface broadens though, because rather than having to infect one endpoint and hope for the best on that one endpoint, you can target multiple people without even affecting their devices. Do you know what I mean? So you can just go for the browser content and hijack the cookie, hijack the session. And that's Amy does an amazing, better job than me.
That sounds really good, actually. Yeah, because you are right. Infecting the endpoint is getting increasingly harder as endpoint detection becomes more ubiquitous and actually cheaper to deploy. So you are right. Why don't you go for something that everyone has, a browser, and it touches untrusted devices all the time. And I know there's sandboxing techniques so within modern browsers today, but steal a cookie, steal some sessions. Look how prevalent MageCart are with JavaScript techniques and stealing credit card information. I always think about that, with shopping online. Do I think I bought something the other day off a really suspect website, and it didn't accept PayPal, and I thought, that's strange. Like, why are you not accepting PayPal? Because that's my firewall for payments. And before I actually purchased on the website, as I went into Chrome and had a look to see what JavaScript calls on
really?
the website. Yeah, because I really needed to use the website, and it just didn't accept the payment process. And I thought, let me see what JavaScript calls that they've got in here before I actually put my credit card details in.
Yeah, definitely. MageCart's a big problem. Yeah, without a doubt. This is the video
Okay.
it's all about from Amy. So like she I won't go into it, but like it's all about forget the sandbox escape, abuse the browser for code execution. I'm amazed it's only got 3,000 likes this or whatever, or 3,000 views rather, even, because it's an insane video. She's fucking insane knowledge base. Someone who's like put teams together for Pwn to Own and shit like that, whatever. So
no dislikes though, so that's good.
No dislikes. Yeah, no, definitely.
That's really okay. I'll note that. I'll note that one down.
Yeah, worth a watch, that one. So yeah, I think mage cart stuff. That's just a problem that never goes away, is it? But what I never know about any mage cart attack is how they first manage to infiltrate whatever web server it is that's hosting that JavaScript. You never get to hear about that. Is that like a leaky bucket that they've got admin rights to, they can just upload arbitrary JavaScript to? Or is it like some vulnerability on the perimeter that they're exploiting to pop a web server or something?
I think it's a combination of all of those. I think it depends on the ease of attack. So I believe for BA, I don't quote me because BA happened so long ago. Wasn't that a compromise of a plugin? Of an existing JavaScript plugin, and someone changed the actual code.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Rather than actively looking for exploits on the BA website, which will probably cause flags to go off everywhere. It's that classic case of, and I love Scott Hume for this actually. And with his he has a service that actively tracks your JavaScript code. So if it changes, you can go and have it investigate. Rather than just trusting every plugin that you put on your website. So it's that third-party risk again, isn't it? Mate, so how do you audit that third-party risk? You can't do it all the time.
Exactly. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? When you look at like many businesses, mine included, the one I work for included, like have third-party risk assessments against your supplier base and blah 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 whatever. But who's risk assessing like jQuery and stuff like that? You know what I mean? If that library got popped, the whole fucking world's game over, isn't it? You know what I mean? Literally everyone's using Bootstrap, jQuery, whatever. But that ain't on anyone's risk radar.
No, it's why people panic so much when there's always a WordPress vulnerability.
Yeah,
from a common WordPress, either it's a theme or I don't know, a poll or something, because everyone uses WordPress. But yeah, it is really interesting. And just going back to the Facebook thing, the infrastructure that they were using, it's really, really similar to harking way back to the beginning, the Lazarus Group. So they were using Facebook as a recruiting platform. So they were approaching InfoSec professionals to recruit them for IT jobs. So it says in this blog, they were leveraging different collaboration tools and messaging platforms to move conversations on and off the platform to send malware to their targets. The victims were lured in by promises of defense jobs, high profile InfoSec careers, X, Y, and Z, and you think that is really interesting because that's super, super targeted. Because you got to think that's brazen. You're trying to fish people that are probably already suspicious because they work in InfoSec and they should be aware. But I would love to see the amount of people that actually got fished. Because I know we joke about it, right? But when you get the common one on LinkedIn which says, "Oh, do you want some free training?" But you've had this experience before, and to this day, guaranteed it was this. Guaranteed it was this exact thing.
Yeah, it's insane, isn't it? Yeah, I think there is definitely. People, certainly myself and others in our immediate community, are on guard for stuff like this, and it's almost comical when it happens. But then you do think like how much trust you put in like people that if someone spoofed an email that came from you, chances are I'd blindly open it and click it or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? You get into this mind of like not trusting anyone or anything that anyone sends you, because you think, what if you were genuinely compromised and your Gmail was taken over and I think it's you? I'm going to click on it because it's you. Or do I even need to click on it nowadays because of all these bloody 0 days in Safari WebKit and stuff like that? No. I just need to even preview the message or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Side note, we were talking off air about C2 domains and things like that registered to Pegasus. And I'm looking at this blog post at the moment about Pegasus. Let me share my screen again. This bad boy here. So Amnesty International's How to Catch NSOs, Pegasus, blah, blah, blah. Anytime I read a blog and I see URLs, clearly yahoo.fr, we know who that is. I start looking, free247downloads.com. I'm like, okay, let's get into 123reg and see whether it's available. And 24/7 downloads is not. But you look at this, documentpro.org is available for a tenner. And this was one of the origins. That was like the redirect source, and then the origin was documentpro.org, which redirected to this domain. And I don't know whether this was legit or malicious. I haven't really read the blog properly to understand, but like you go through this and it's amazing how the infrastructure just burns over time, and you could like go and own it if you wanted to. So
yeah, but then it's just you'll never be able to. Well, you'll never be able to use that for legitimate reasons because it'll just be on WebRoot's high, risky URL list. But yeah, it's interesting.
There you go. Look, he visited yahoo.fr and a network injection forcibly redirected the browser to documentpro.org and then further redirected. So you could be part of that hop if you wanted to. You can go register that today.
Yeah.
And away you go.
Well, yeah, it's a good. You can start putting some listeners on 443. See who's coming that direction.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's very good because you can start profiling and seeing who's actually infected. But more than likely, NSO have gone and burnt all of their assets. Little remote command to uninstall.
Maybe. Oh, there's another one that's available. There you go. $2.99. It's a bargain.
That's a bargain. That one. Get it before it's gone.
And .info as well. So
the URL push.net. That's actually a good URL. That's a good domain name.
That's taken. I did check that before while you were talking. Yeah. .info is available.
They do good on SecOps. Is the who is it the?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. Let me see. Oh. Try defanging it first, though.
Yeah, redacted. Sometimes you just get that one where they don't, they don't go for it.
Fun and games, but yeah, it's amazing. You can register some of these domains and be part of it.
Well, I mean, looking at these Facebook ones, there's a lot of domains in this.
Really,
I could do a count, and if I pushed it in Vim, I could do a count. But there's some really interesting domains. MicrosoftOnline.com.
You're using Vim nowadays. Don't open that debate. Come on, fucking hell.
No, I don't have a debate.
Do you use Vim?
Just the one, that is just the one that I use. Like I have no
Vim.
Yeah, it's just the one that I know to use. I just use Vim, and I don't have an argument for or against it. It's just that's the one that I use.
How long have you used Vim for? I didn't know about that.
Ever since I've just been like messing around in Linux. It's just my go-to. Maybe because it's like really easy to just do like I just know it.
Yeah.
But why? Go on, tell me what should I not be doing then?
No. I've made happy days. I've always wanted to be that guy that uses Vim. I've always wanted to be Tom Nom Nom, who's like, Vim bandit. And I downloaded Tom's like Vim files and everything to have the same config as him and blah. So much. I just find the learning journey too much for me because I'm an old dog now, and you can't teach the old big dog new tricks, can you? So like I struggle with fucking Nano, and I hate Nano. But I do it because I'm not good enough at Vim. And then I think, okay, and one day I wake up and go, I'm going to use Vim today. And that's all I'm going to use. And in the end, I'm like, I'll find another way around it. You know what I mean? Because I can't remember, don't get me wrong. I can open Vim, I can edit a file, I can make the changes I need, I can write whatever I want, and I can quit it and blah, blah, blah. All the fucking jokes about Vim, whatever. But what I what I can't do is remember all of the shortcuts to make me like a Vim expert.
Neither can I. And this is, I have a file on my desktop, which is, I've got a file called like enum commands. I've got a file called like just like special commands, and I all scrape them, hands up, from NAMSEC's recon videos. So whenever I watch them, and then I'm like, all right, and I see people doing stuff, and I just start typing down notes of like what they were doing, and I go and try it myself. And, oh, that works, and then I just keep a list of stuff. And this is why I use Vim, because yes, I saw Tom like flying through it, and I'm thinking, oh my god, like what is he doing? Like it's just magic. And I watched a NAMSEC not long ago, and I cannot for the life of me remember who he had on. I'm in the wrong YouTube account. It's not gonna be in here. Of which one I watched recently. Who was it? Yes, it was Codingo. That's it.
Oh yeah.
And it was just fantastic. His piping skills were amazing.
Really?
Like watching that video. Let's see. I'm not going to show the ad for Ring. I'm not going to show the ads. It's free publicity here.
You've not upgraded to your YouTube Premium account yet?
I'm not paying for YouTube Premium.
Come on. Smash the cash, man. It's 2021.
I am not paying for. It's not even loading. See, YouTube Premium. I'm not paying for YouTube Premium.
YouTube Premium is the best thing I've bought in ages. That's saying something. I watch so much more YouTube now that I've got YouTube Premium, because I just forget about adverts ever existed. And when
really?
I'm on my corporate account on Google at the moment, and I go to YouTube, I'm like, oh, what are these adverts? It's horrible.
No, yeah, you are right, and I just think they do seem to be injecting more and more ads, and this video was really, really good, and I can't find the bits where he's piping into Vim and back out again, and he's got his own custom tools as well. So I will say, if anyone's interested, that Codingo video was absolutely amazing.
I've not watched it.
He uses T. That's it.
T-A.
Yeah, he uses T. Yes. Let's have a look at his GitHub.
He works at Bugcrowd, right?
Yeah, Michael Skelton,
head of security ops and research enablement at Bugcrowd.
I don't know if T was his own. Yeah, but it was. I can't find it now. I'll have to do some more research or rewatch the video. But
yeah, I'll check it out. That's a good one.
It's a really, really, really good video.
What do you think about the whole Kaseya thing? Kaseya? How do you say it?
I say Kaseya. I just you look at it and I think that it was almost the catalyst to greater third-party risk analysis.
Because you think SolarWinds should have been like that, though.
Oh yeah, you think, right? But SolarWinds was super high profile, really noisy, really, really quickly. But SolarWinds only affected large institutions, really. So it's like the Microsoft, the FireEyes, the big budget holders.
I think everyone said, like, if SolarWinds had like a ransomware element to it, it would have been way worse. But it was just information stealing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was just exfiltration, and people look at exfiltration and think, nah, don't worry about that. Like we just turn our eye to that, because the data we still have the data. It's just been doxed. But Kaseya, everyone is aware of ransomware now. And I know you'd think after WannaCry, people would be more aware of it and more cognizant of the risks. But again, news cycles, people forget, and you go on to the next. But Kaseya affected so many smaller organizations, and it affected the MSSPs. So it goes back to who's watching the watchers. And I think it's it's caused such a stir in the industry, and that organizations are now thinking about this. You know, I spoke to a company the other day who produced dog food, and they're now thinking about this. They're now thinking, oh right, yeah, we need to actually start looking at our vendors. You know, we've got people who manage our website, we've got people who manage our e-commerce, we've got people that manage our desktops. Like if the desktop provider was to be compromised, we can't work. You know, we can't do email because they have global access to the whole thing. So I do think it is as bad as it's been, and well, you know, there's a universal decryptor out now, so people are recovering a lot of their files, and there was a massive, you know, as you're aware in the videos that you've produced, there was a massive flaw in their campaign, which didn't delete shadow copies. So some of the people were just like, whatever, I just rolled back. Thanks, you know, thanks but no thanks. But I think it's causing it in the vendor industry. It is causing noise because people are now thinking, "Ooh, we're gonna be subject to a lot more scrutiny from organizations." And it's one of the points I had that down here is the knock-on effect of SolarWinds and Kaseya. Like the US have gone big on defense now, haven't they?
Well, where the fuck have REvil gone now? Because they've disappeared, have they? Like the infrastructure taken down, Biden kind of claiming a bit of credit for it, is he? Or
yeah, it really does interest me. Like it is weird that all of a sudden they just disappear.
We need Charity on to tell us about this. You know what I mean? Like, what does she know about all of that US political relationship side of things? Because it's just weird how, in my limited view, limited understanding, Putin doesn't give a shit, right? And he's like, yeah, do you know what? All the phishing and the malware stuff, everything, ransomware shit coming on in out of Russia, whatever. Well, the impression I get from the Western media is that he lets that go on as long as they don't touch Russia and their friends. And so hence the reason why REvil's got a config which says if the machine is like got Russian language, don't touch it. That wasn't activated. Not that, if I remember rightly, in this case, in the Kaseya case, that part of the config wasn't checked. So you can switch that on and off, that flag. And it makes me think, who was that? Was it like an amateur hour person group, whatever, that's got their hands on the, a link to REvil? And then they just, they got too noisy and they got maybe a little bit too lucky with Kaseya and the potential impact that it had. But then the whole, if Putin doesn't give a shit, why does you ain't gonna give a shit about Biden and stuff and what Biden's telling him to pipe down with his cybersecurity? All of a sudden, one of the biggest malware operators, ransomware operators, disappears. What's that about?
Well, I have multiple thoughts about this. So when I see stuff within, everyone knows attribution is the hardest part of InfoSec. Actually being able to tell with great confidence that this attack is attributed to this nation state or this attack group or this ATP is super hard, because stuff like that, putting flags in the code saying ignore, if within Russian language, disable, like that. If I was a sophisticated attacker, I'd put that in to throw people off.
Yeah,
I'd put those things in.
If you're a defender, just put that. Just put Russian language as a second language on everyone's machine. Just roll it out by group policy, and you're 50% of the way there with your defense.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck your EDR investment.
Yeah, don't worry about EDR. We just have just so really. I can't name him, but he works at another EDR. He works at a very popular EDR vendor, and he has Russian Windows Office for the exact reason.
Brilliant. I love it. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, I just think it's really funny. But I
stick everything on a D drive. Make your C drive the D drive.
Yeah.
Most malware will fall over.
Yeah.
Know what to do.
I just do. I think it's funny that these things exist. In the code base, they must, when these nation states are authoring the code, they must be thinking 10 steps ahead. They must be thinking, if the code is burnt and people start doing attribution, what are they going to be looking for? So I know I'm going to start putting red herrings all over the code so they're not looking at me. So I have a sneaky suspicion Kaseya was not Russian, and it was US based attack.
I've heard someone else say this, someone in the intelligence community as well, that we both know. And it's an interesting train of thought, that, isn't it? But then you think, what
Motivation, money, 100%. This was purely financial.
So you think the US need money
No,
from ransomware?
no, but I don't think this. I think this was a group, a low-lying group that have got extremely lucky. So it could either be insider threat, insider in the bug program at Kaseya, or someone that stumbled across something and thought, I can make some money here. I'm gonna go out, leak this bit of information. You know, hey guys, we've got a couple of vulnerabilities here that you can easily exploit. Because whoever did the attack had working knowledge of VSA.
Right.
They had working knowledge of VSA, of how it deployed software, how to get the software on there, and they knew the vulnerability existed, and only 2 organizations knew that vulnerability existed: the Dutch threat intel team and Kaseya themselves. So either the Dutch team were compromised, or Kaseya were compromised, or it's an inside job from Kaseya.
I've always had a thing about this kind of vulnerability research thing. It's sort of thing with Orange Sai a little while ago.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I remember this.
What I can't even remember.
That was Haffingham,
the exchange stuff, wasn't it? Yeah, that's right. And you think, so he disclosed it, but 2 days before, whatever it was, before he disclosed it, it was used in the wild by some malicious actor. So somewhere in that process, someone's got a sniff of it. And so here, there's nothing to suggest that Orange or even the Dutch intel community, whoever it was, have done anything wrong here. But you wonder whether there's some sniffing about on some telemetry from your analysis systems. If you're a vulnerability researcher, how do you know, for example, I'm not saying any of these are involved, but for example, Microsoft's telemetry data, or you were talking about Chrome telemetry data before, about, who's analyzing the crash faults and stuff like that. Does all that kind of stuff go on, and someone in an office somewhere is going, hang on a minute, someone's testing some vulnerabilities, and we think they found an outlier, and then they've got, they're part of that malicious chain kind of thing. I don't know, but it definitely begs the question. If I feel like there's more intelligence there underground, isn't it? That we think about the dark web and all that bullshit, and really the underground of the intelligence community is that kind of layer, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. I remember the conversation we had with Mike. Mike said, I worked at B of A during the day, learning the vulnerabilities we had, and then I'd sell them at night.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
He's a perfect example of what could be happening here.
Yeah, that is true. Best way to hack an organization or a platform, go and get a job there.
Yeah, exactly. So it just doesn't seem right. Like REvil, and I keep tabs on the Happy blog, and there's a really, if you're ever interested, and let me pull this up because it takes ages to load. So I'll pull up. I have it in my bookmarks, and it's, I don't know if you've seen this before, Colin. It's Dark Tracer's victim list.
Okay. No, I don't think I've seen it.
You've never seen this? Yeah. So this is let's get this on. So this is Dark Tracer's victim list. And let me just scroll to the bottom. I think it's at 2,500. So let's keep going. Yeah, there we go. It's got to the end now. So I love looking at this every day. Wow. And this is how I knew FC UK were hacked. Because I got on, I looked on this list, and it appeared on the same day, and I tweeted out to FC UK saying, have you been compromised by REvil? And then 2 days, I think 2 days later, Reg on Twitter, she'd actually looked in the Happy blog and she'd seen that they'd been doxed. So this is a fantastic resource for any defender out there.
I've never heard.
You've never seen this before.
Never seen Dark Tracer. No, never even heard of it.
Yeah, Dark Tracer are just another threat intel team, but when
you said Dark Tracer, I thought you said Dark Trace, and I was like, oh, here we go, another vendor spiel.
So they do sell enhanced versions of this, so there's more information. But they just post this list on the Google Drive link.
Who the fuck are Dark Tracer then? Where are they getting this?
Do you know what? I have no idea. I haven't looked into where they get this from. They say dark web here, but they must be in loads of different closed forums. I wonder if
maybe they're monitoring leak sites and stuff like that as well.
So I mean, what are we on now?
Wow.
I didn't even scroll to the bottom. Oh, here we go. So 23rd, which is today. We've got Huff Group compromised by Conti.
Wow. Insane. That's a really cool resource.
It's fantastic because you can go in here, and this is what I do: just go in, and then I'll go in Google search to see if they've got they've
Are there any names on there that we know? Should we be worried about?
Let's see. So I haven't been on here for the past week because it hasn't moved since Colonial Pipeline. This list started to slow down, and I think the pipeline incident raised way too many flags, so a lot of these groups calmed down. But you can see that they've picked up steam. They've picked up steam again, and you'll see if I scroll a little bit higher up, it calms down a lot, and then it just picks back up all of a sudden.
It was weird, that pipeline thing, because didn't they get their money back by the US Intel infiltrating?
It makes zero sense that they that they were magically able to go to the exchanges and just siphon the money back.
It makes no sense.
Again, it's the same with Tor. We all know that the FBI own Tor exit nodes and entrance nodes. So do they own Bitcoin exchanges as well?
Yeah.
More than likely. If you're an intelligence agency, where's the best place to get the intelligence? Straight from the source. So you might as well just create a Bitcoin exchange. Well, why not?
True. Yeah, that is true.
So let's have a look at the past couple of days here.
And what's interesting is like literally every like.
Oh yeah, so 21st Century Gold Realty. So I saw that one in the news. So I'm aware of those. A lot of French. There seems to be a lot of French companies in here, which is a little bit concerning. Nottingham City Transport.
Got it.
Yeah, it seems to be a lot of US, a lot of French. But look at the calming down from REvil.
Yeah.
If you were to scroll up here, look at REvil's activity. It's pretty much consistent. There's lots of Conti as well, and I'm not too aware of why there's so much Conti activity going on. I did read a blog that Conti seem to be focusing on France a lot. Why, I'm not too sure, but and look at this, a slew of Lockbit. You know what? There was an active campaign, or they're just seeing that there's a gap in the market now. REvil's infrastructure is down. Well, this is a fantastic little bit of resource, and they've got a Twitter handle as well, so you can go and they post this stuff daily. But I always go on this, just do a little, goes to the bottom of the list. We're at 2,700. We'll just see who today's victim is, and then go and do a little Google search, just see if they've actually publicly come out.
I know Carsten Hahn on Twitter does really great analysis on works for GData on ransomware and stuff like that, especially. So it'd be interesting to chat with him and see what.
So the Kaseya, so I don't know if I feel like we covered it off all the way.
Mate, we have gone through some topics already.
Yeah, and because the Kaseya thing is just I think it has changed the industry a lot. I think there's a lot of people asking more questions.
I think that, but also I think like it's definitely not as noisy as WannaCry, right? Because it's not on front page news anymore. And, it wasn't like hospitals falling over because, of ransomware and stuff like that. I couldn't name a victim of Kaseya, of ransomware. I don't know who they are. So I feel like, it was big for like a day or two or whatever, but now it's, yesterday's news and it's forgotten about. And, I think there's still like not enough focus in this area to fix all of the major problems to never see this kind of threat again. Do you know what I mean? Ransomware. So also, whilst in my brain, you talked about the universal decryptor for the Kaseya attack, right? This REvil attack. I find it amazing that they would use a single key pair for the whole campaign, but maybe my limitation of the understanding of the actual malware and how it operates, but like, it doesn't make any sense that every victim would have the same key to decrypt, like across. I know that basically they've infected Kaseya, but surely, as you said before, the targeted recon to infect that environment. They know it's an MSP. They know they've got multiple other companies that are going to be impacted by this ransomware. Why not use individual key pairs for each of those victims to make sure that if one of them pays the ransom, that all of them can't benefit?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. If as a ransomware operator, which I'm not, but surely that would be basics. And then the VSS thing, and then stuff like that. It's weird, isn't it? Sorry to cut you off.
I did read something about this key pair, and I can't remember where it was, so it's almost useless mentioning it.
There's a guy called Fabian Wosar on Twitter.
Yeah, and then I watched something else about how that even though when REvil drops in an individual enterprise at a new domain, it creates a UEID, which is then written into its separate private key for each individual organization. But something to do with the initial that when you buy your REvil, when you compile your REvil ransomware, say as a partner, you say, okay, I'm going to pay for my my license key, call it, of REvil, and that there's actually a PKI process at that point. That means you can always unlock, if you ever needed to unlock everyone in your campaign, that you could, and that this is the first time ever that a partner had actually offered that private key.
Wow. Okay.
And I can't remember where I maybe it was in this thread, but it was somewhere else.
So there are 4 public and private key pairs involved. There is the operator key.
Operator key. That's it. Yeah.
With the public part being hard coded into every single sample we have ever seen. So that's the master key. That's what we're saying.
And then the campaign key.
Then the campaign key, the public part is stored in the config in PK value in the registry. Yeah. And that usually changes for each victim. Oh, I see. So there's always, so no matter who operates, so if you go and like rent the REvil infrastructure, whatever, and distribute a campaign to somebody, there's still the big mystical guy in the background who can decrypt everything. Is that right? Is that what we're saying? There's basically there's
a master key and a sub key. So that campaign key is available, and I think this is what they've given up, is the campaign key.
Wow. So that's I mean, surely they've got to their whole infrastructure has got to change then, hasn't it? They've got to rotate those keys and then distribute out new binaries to their affiliates and stuff like that.
So to recover the system private key, REvil has 3 options, and we have seen use 2 of them in the past. 2 involve embedding the operator key or the campaign key. So we've never seen them having out the operator key. Yeah, right.
Oh, I see. It's a precaution by rogue affiliates that violate their rules, so they can always decrypt files encrypted by their malware. With it, we could decrypt any victim. Wow. Okay, so this is what we're saying. Oh, now I get it. The third way is handing out decryptors that only contain specific system private keys. We fully expect them to do this here, and it's likely the reason they're only asking 45 grand a ransom. Okay. Wow. Okay, now I get it. There's like no wonder
keys.
No wonder they're proud of their encryption mechanisms and stuff like
that. Oh yeah, I read that and I thought, Jesus, I need a cryptographer to go through this and
mate. I've read this thread multiple times. It's the first time I've understood it. It's because I'm talking to you. So
yeah, we've like bounced it back and forth and actually understood what it actually means.
Now we've cured that problem. Yeah. Onto world peace. Yeah, good.
Yeah, but it is crazy. But I honestly think this was a US based attack and it wasn't Russia. It could have been inside a threat. For all you know, it could have been someone in an MSSP that had a VSA appliance and was just poking around with it and got lucky. But it for me, the clincher is, how did they know that vulnerability existed, and how did they exploit it so quickly?
Yeah, there's a lot of threads to pull out there, isn't there?
Yeah,
I reckon there's an episode there with even like a subject matter expert to help come and educate us. Who knows? Even Fabian might come on one day and speak to us about.
Yeah, tell us how it all went down.
Tell us how much we don't know.
But I think how we got onto this was the US are going like huge in cyber defense. And I know we've seen this in other places before, like the UK with their expansion of GCHQ and NCSC. But there was something like 3,000 vacancies that the US had put out, and that they'd actually filled close to 1,000 of them already. And I just think, where? Like, where did you get all these people from? Because I thought there was meant to be a shortage, but all of a sudden they've filled 1,000 vacancies. And then when you look at and how this refreshed into my mind, was when I was looking at the indictments for the 1, 2, 3, the four guys who hacked Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that that was really, really interesting. Back in 2020, lockdown version 1, like how are they doing that? I know Biden's gone out and said we're going to go big on cyber, we're going to expand and start looking into vendors, looking into code, start bringing some best practice, and there's something in this as well that are saying that they're going to start publicly announcing vulnerabilities, and I thought that was part of the Obama administration. So because when WannaCry came out, that they said that they needed to start publicly announcing, rather than the NSA holding 0 days, if they were useful to the greater good, they had to announce them by law. So when I saw this, I thought, isn't that a copy of what's already been done? So
sounds like it. Yeah.
Was that just never put in place, or actually we ignored them? So I did mention about the Twitter hack. So yes, that they have finally indicted all 3. So Joseph O'Connor was hiding out in Spain for the past year, and is finally being
the Irish guy, is he?
Yeah. The 22. So they've all been indicted now. It's just I
remember Krebs did something on Joe O'Connor, didn't he? I'm sure he doxed him, basically.
Yeah, I think he did, and I don't think it went down very well.
No.
So I think Krebs did dox. Krebs doxed someone else the other day. Actually, I noticed on Twitter. I didn't really go into it, and there was so much drama. It was about 2 weeks ago, but yeah. So these 4 have now been indicted, and I just find it really. I have so many unanswered questions about this because they've been indicted, great, but they gained access via Twitter Slack group. So
found credentials in Slack workplaces that allowed them to gain access to Twitter's moderation panel. How are they in the Slack workspace for Twitter in the first place?
So I'm thinking.
Oh, I see. So O'Connor worked with the other 3 to gain access to one of Twitter's internal Slack channels. So mate, it probably goes back to what we were talking about earlier, compromising the bloody tokens, the browsers, or unless they found one in a GitHub repo somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was looking through the indictment, but there's not much information in there at the moment, unless I've missed it and I've just not done enough research. But yeah, that's my interest. Like, did they get a session? They just hijacked a session? Did they fish for the credentials and
Probably
they got really, really lucky?
Yeah.
Again, there's so many employees at Twitter. It could have been. I mean, these guys are pretty young, but still, it could have been. Here's a bit of money, and we give us a login.
Yeah, definitely. And also as well, like the shit going on with like the verified accounts at the moment. So like, genuine people trying to get verified accounts can't. And then there's like these bot accounts which are coming online with 0 followers, 0 posts getting verified. And it's like, how's that working? Is that someone on the inside or whatever? Do you mean, Twitter, same as Facebook, same as all the other big tech companies, massive organizations, so many moving parts. How can you control and have visibility everywhere? Let's go into what we were saying earlier about the Magecart stuff. Like, how do you know? We never get to know what the infection vector is. How did they first get in? We know what they did, and all of this stuff is interesting, but how did they get in the first place? And no one ever tell you that, will they? Annoying.
No, you never really, unless it comes up in a podcast or it's it just popped into my head. But yeah, you never really get a full view of how an attack happened. And I think one is probably the organization doesn't want you to know that there was this specific weakness.
Yeah.
And there was a really good article about how we pin way too much reliance on MITRE ATT&CK, because majority of actual attacks are not documented publicly. So MITRE ATT&CK is incomplete.
Yeah, I think it's like a baseline. Like if you've got awareness of these basic things, the chances are you're in a good mature position, etc. But it's definitely not a catch-all, is it? Like, you don't have to, like, if you've got every use case ticked against MITRE, you still get hacked, you still get fucked. I mean, you've got the NSO group to worry about, but then you've got these clowns fishing people for Twitter credentials to get into your Slack environment and stuff like that. People will always find the path of least resistance, won't they? So
yeah, well, I mean, they're all really young as well, so they're either extremely smart,
these are the
or
ones that were
lucky.
involved in like sim swapping and stuff like that. Is that where they were like they were on some kind of like card-in forum or something like that? I'm pretty sure, like
More than
going
likely.
in my brain cells about what I read with Krebs and stuff. I'm pretty sure they were related to like sim swaps and stuff like that from in the past. That's how they kind of know each other.
Do you think it's all down to just financial motivation? Because there was that guy in Manchester that got caught for the tech scams, the Royal Mail tech scams. Because he was really young, wasn't he? And he was just in a hotel, popped up in a hotel.
Oh, mate, that was hilarious. Yeah. I remember seeing the pictures of that.
Yeah, and I just think it must be the financial motivation, because if you're doing that, like, you're pretty savvy anyway. So, like, why don't you just go legit and actually just get a job if you want to?
Mate, the amount of money you can make bug bountying. You're fucking Doggy G earning millions of dollars a year finding the same shitty vulnerabilities across Yahoo and stuff like that. There's money to be made if you want it legitimately. You don't have to be a bad guy to, the ransomware operators, for example, like REvil, earning tens, hundreds of millions a year. That's like epic scale. But, if you're in two minds, you're like 18 years old, 20 years old, you got some skills, you're a bedroom hacker, whatever, and you can pull a phishing website together. Well, the amount of phishing websites that I've got access to in terms of the zip files, their source code and their victim lists and shit like that from the intel, like, they don't get massive amounts, and I don't know what they're doing with them. Are they trying to sell their credentials onwards, or are they trying to misuse them, or are they just trying to
must be, or sit on them. You never know what you've got. You sit on it, monitor the mailbox. It could be how Kaseya was hacked.
Yeah,
you just sit on that mailbox for God knows how long until you get that golden nugget come through.
But then, you said we joke or whatever about making sure they put their skills to good use and do it legit. What's to say that they're not already in the industry doing legit stuff, but they just got that badass streak in them and they just need to flex that brain, and that's why they're doing it.
Yeah.
The chances are, I mean, a lot, you look at like Marcus Hutchins, we talked about him off air a little bit as well, right? But clearly he's got a past. But also his present and his future are very much in the blue team. And you find that an awful lot around blue teamers that, some of them wore grey hats back in the day because no one really knew what the fuck they were doing and what the rules were. And everyone was just being a bit naughty.
A little bit mischievous, but it was, a little bit, it was a way to practice your skills and become known.
And we need that skill set in the industry. So there's, I'd be amazed if people involved in cybercrime were not already working in the industry. I mean, you mentioned Mike Jones, who's obviously a reformed character now, but he had that kind of streak in him as well.
I want to ask you something a little bit controversial before we end up. What is your take on IDs for social media? Because that's caused a lot of noise after Euros.
Oh, you mean like verifying your account, proving who you are for social media?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what? I just think I can see the value in it. I can see why the suggestion would be, hey, do you know what? You need to prove who you are and stuff like that, what have you. But it still doesn't solve the problem of like account takeovers. So you could still get phished, you could still get hacked, you could still have your account compromised. And what was it that I was thinking about? I think it was the Euro 2020 final with the racist tweets. Is this what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So, and like there's people saying, oh, my LinkedIn was taken over and it was hacked and stuff like that. Well, yeah, I can prove my identity and register an account with Facebook and LinkedIn. It's still not going to stop that happening, is it?
Yeah, I think it's a really, really difficult argument, because there is pros, there is cons, and there's two sides of this argument which are both valid. The side that I'm hearing a lot of at the moment on Twitter and other social media platforms is you are removing the anonymity of a lot of people who need it. Or just desire it, and not for anything nefarious, not for anything malicious, because either they want to have an online persona which others are just not aware of. Maybe they're in a space in their life where they can't openly come out as a certain way or identify differently. So I do get the strong argument against. My argument against is that we just know that social media companies are terrible with their data. So
Yeah.
imagine having to upload your passport to Facebook for them to go, we forgot to turn the API call off, and now all everyone's passports have been exfiltrated out of the business. That's my argument with it.
I know. You could almost argue again that that data is probably already out there in some shape or form. I mean, it's registered with the fucking NHS and this, that, and the other and stuff. And how good are they? And where do they store their data? And the NSA's probably got everything everywhere, and GCHQ are watching everything, and blah blah blah. I get it. I feel like it's probably the question of personal freedoms, and they're quite rightly, if you want a particular persona without having a platform know who you truly are and how you truly identify and all the rest of it, then there should be an outlet for people without having to prove themselves to a big tech company out in San Fran. But at the same time, it would also be nice to know that there is not could it ever be called a safe place? But when we've both got kids, when we're bringing kids into the world of social media, that there is that kind of a little bit more of a guardrail around that kind of environment where they might not get fucking bullied and they might not get all of this shit that I read stories about kids committing suicide or having
being cyberbullied,
and you think if that's more difficult because if I'm about to write a message which is potentially quite harassing and bullying and all the rest of it, I might think twice because I know the platform knows who I am. But then there should also be the side of things where you can say whatever you want online to whoever you want, because let's be honest, you could go out in the street, shout whatever you wanted to, and no one really knows who you are anyway. So
do you think it is a hard one? Like, do you think there was so many arguments in terms of, well, if I just say COVID-19 on Instagram, there's a banner just at the bottom. So there's already algorithms that can clearly be tuned to tune a lot of this stuff out. But then you're bringing in censorship again, and TikTok why are TikTok not in trouble for this? Because I always see every week TikTokers saying, and I'm not on TikTok, but I see it on different platforms. I posted a video and it got took down by TikTok for something that was completely trivial, but it's just not what they want to see on their platform.
I'm saying I actually deleted TikTok a good few months ago now, probably 6 months ago, whatever it was, because I was just losing too much time watching shit videos. But there's people on there that I used to be quite amused by and follow and like and stuff like that, and they were just innocuous content, but they'd also have like an OnlyFans or something. Do you know what I mean? And they'd talk about that only, and so I think people just don't like see, or some people don't like seeing the success of others, so they just naturally go report their videos and stuff like that. For almost no reason, just because they're being successful or they're putting themselves out there. But you're always going to get those clowns. You know what I mean? Whether they're verified on a platform or not, you're still going to get them.
But do you think it's the individuals reporting, or it's the platform unhappy with the content on there? I read something on LinkedIn today where this woman was and it's alleged because I don't know, we don't have any proof. It was alleging that LinkedIn had removed her post because she put up a picture with her son wearing a dress to prom.
Wow.
And she was claiming that LinkedIn had removed the post because that they did not want to see that content on LinkedIn, so it was deleted.
Wow.
But whether it's until I see a statement from LinkedIn saying, "Oh, it was a mistake," it's always like, "Oh, it was a mistake. We didn't mean to. We just."
It surely goes through like an algorithm. Like, there's no one viewing every single photo that gets uploaded.
No, probably just go through some sort of algorithm. But unless people start, you know what LinkedIn's like. I bet people were reporting it, saying this isn't LinkedIn content, and X, Y, and Z. But
fake news. I mean, how do you?
Yeah,
big problem.
It is crazy. Like, social media have got one, they have a responsibility, I believe. I definitely do believe they have a responsibility to the wider good of the platform, because it is, internet. I know there's a lot of people who used to call it internet as the escapism, especially when I was growing up, with my 56K. It was like, well, you have your real life and then you escape on the internet, but you don't now. You have your internet life is your real life, and they just merge. They become one now.
You're almost more anonymous in real life now.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're right, because I can, like you said, you can walk outside, shout something, and no one knows who you are. But if I go online, my IP address is there, my photo is there. The web server's got my host header. Like there's more information being given out. it's just it's a really, really difficult topic.
Yeah. And the reality is no one tech platform like Facebook is going to make the change, because everyone will just fuck Facebook off and go to their competitors, because the competitors will have a place for all of these people. And unless they all do it, which will never happen, nothing will change.
No, I totally agree with you. I totally agree.
On that bombshell, mate, it's been a good chat. It's been a good episode. Yeah. And I feel like it's nice to be back. It's nice to just talk about the industry. And also, I think going forward, yes, we'll have some guests. Yes, we'll bring some people in. We'll have a chit chat with people. But I feel like we did a great thing with our 20 episodes of interviewing people about what it's like. And now there's almost like a new start to InfoSec Real.
Yes, so we can give you, talk about the realness, our thoughts, our personal thoughts, and controversy. I didn't get really controversial in this one. We can go even further and start talking about real, other topics. But yeah,
we'll wait till we've had a beer and then we'll do it again.
Yes, we'll do one at night, and we'll keep the same uniform on as well, because we're wearing the same t-shirt.
Yeah, it's nice that we should get some logos here. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yes, yeah, definitely, 100%. But yeah, it's been really, really good.
All right. See you later.